How's your dad?
He's doing well. Yeah, he's doing well. Yeah, I think he's always on the move. So.
Good afternoon, my villagers. Oh, what a day that the Lord has made. We must rejoice and be glad in it. But since we, as African American, walk and chew gum at the same time, in addition to rejoicing, we must take up our armor and fight. And our way of fighting right now is the vote. That should be our most urgent concern right now, because if we don't make that our priority, our children, those that come after us, won't have a chance. It's just a serious, y'all, it's as serious can be. Now, I've got to get on a soapbox here for a minute. The most urgent concern on my list of concerns is voting. Now, I've been voting since 1965. Did you hear that? Now, 1965, not even 100 years ago, when we were allowed to vote. Our ancestors and many people today fought hard to enable us to vote. At that time, not knowing a whole lot about the significance of voting, my curiosity heightened when I realized how hard some other were fighting to keep us from voting. See, I'm a very curious person. I'm reminded of another curious person, one of the greatest minds of all time, that's what they said, Albert Einstein, who said he said, I'm not just curious, or I'm not so powerful, I'm just passionately curious, is his quote, you know? So I'm just curious. If the power to be was putting all that effort in keeping us from voting, there must be power in the vote. You know, you think about it that way.
Yeah.
So I've been sort of voting I've been voting ever since. Now that brings me to present day voting. Some of our young people don't understand yet how voting does not have to be personal, but practical.
Yes.
I was talking to a young man over the weekend, casual conversation, and his topic for voting came up, and the topic of voting came up, and I asked him if he voted. He said, no. Well, he knocked me with the wind right out of my sail, but when I resuscitated, I said, really? Why? He said, because neither party has done anything for him. Now, I didn't try to argue the point, because what I heard was a young man looking for love in all the wrong places. First of all, we can't compare the two systems that's running today. Well, you know, like Democrats, Republicans that we knew before.
Right.
There is Trump running against civilization.
Yes.
So I made the analogy. African American, coming from what has been described as chattel slavery. Not me, of course, but our ancestors.
Yes.
I use the analogy of the two slave masters, Mr. Brown versus Mr. Charlie. Now, Mr. Brown is the good master. Work you from sunup to sundown, which allows you to have another day. Mr. Charlie was not so kind. He lynches one of his, quote, slaves every day. Now, which would you choose? Because you're not Nat Turner, remember. You are not H. Rap Brown. You're not Stokely Carmichael. You're not Malcolm X. Nor are you Sister Harriet Tubman. or the Mama crew. So which would you choose? For me, I would choose Mr. Brown, hoping and praying that Sister Harriet Tubman may come through and I could sneak my way to the promised land via the Underground Railroad, that is. See, so it wasn't that I loved or trusted either. It was simply using common sense, moving to the beat of my own interest. So for those of you who think it's cute or smart to say, neither one loves me, I mean, because that's the word I'm hearing when you say that, neither one has to love you. You are fighting the best fight you can at the time for generations going forward. For those of you who are looking for love, number one, what you get, not voting is giving you Trump. Number two, not voting is giving you gas prices over $5. Mm-hmm. Number three, not voting is giving you ICE agents. Not voting is setting you back 65 years or more. I can go on and on and on, but for the sake of your ancestors and us elders, do it for me. Let me thank my team now. I want to thank my team. I want to thank Sheila, my producer. I want to thank Juanita, my advisor. And I want to thank my promo crew, my little ones, Chastity and Alwa. I want to thank the man here of the hour, Norm, our engineer. Norman. And certainly I want to thank Tony. He sends in these clippings that you all see we bring in weekly.
Do we have any today?
We don't need it today. We have a great guest.
Oh, yeah.
We have our great guest. We don't need it.
We'd rather give him.
And, of course, I thank my co-host here, Ms. Rose Moore. And we're missing our book reviewer, Reverend Dunnins. He had some family issues to take care of. But we're thinking about you, brother.
Yes.
You be real. And, of course, we have a terrific guest here today, a young man, an educator. I always get excited about black men who go into the field of education because that's what our children need today.
Yeah.
Now, this brother comes from a lineage. I was at the Juneteenth affair last weekend. So at the Source of Knowledge bookstore in Newark. It's a great outing. There were vendors and entertainers and speakers, etc. And I heard this voice, eerily familiar. That's not Dr. Calfani, I said to the person next to me. You know, Dr. Calfani has been here on our podcast a few times, yes. And everybody always asks when he's coming back. But when I looked at the stage, I realized it was not Dr. Calfani, but I knew it had to be his son, because he talks about him sometimes. You know, apple does not fall far from the tree. Mm-hmm. So our guest today is Jakada Calfani, son of Dr. Calfani, and he's written this book on vision. And the book is called let me see what the title, What the FKV.
Right.
Yes.
And before we get misunderstood from this elder, Rose, read the title out there in the back.
The title is, well, I know you're curious about the FKV. It's Feel, Know, and Vision.
Feel, Know, and Vision.
Yes.
Okay. So welcome, my brother.
Yes.
And so we are so excited to have you here. So you're going to be explaining to us your book. And I'm going to ask the first question is, how did you come about writing the book?
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me on here. It's a joy. Mm-hmm. And I came about writing the book. The long way is that it was basically years of my own personal experience condensed into something that I knew could help other people. And I would say the start of it, the very beginning. So, like you said, the name of the book is What the FKV. Now, FKV, like you said, it stands for Feel, Know, and Vision. And the point of it is really to teach people how to use some of those emotions that sometimes oversteer us in life. Yes. Sometimes someone says something to you or something happens, and maybe 2 days later, 3 days later, a week later, you're still thinking about it, ruminating on it.
Right.
And sometimes that can stop you from making some of the clear, level-headed decisions that you need to make to actually get to where you want to be at in life.
Right.
So the origins of me writing this book began with my own understanding of how emotions worked. So when I was very young, I used to use art as a way to kind of express some of my emotions. When I was happy, I would make something that looked happy. When I was sad, I would make something that looked sad. It wasn't until high school and then college when I learned that you could not only use art to show how you felt, but to actually change how you felt. So after I had graduated, I was in Brazil doing a community arts project where we were working with some students, and the prompt that we had given them was to draw how you feel, to express how they felt. So they were all going around doing different pictures. And one of the kids, who couldn't have been maybe more than 5 or 6 years old, he came up with this drawing of this big black scribbled page, markers and crayons scribbled all over, and looking angry. And he said, this is how I feel. And I looked at it for a minute, and then I asked him, I said, well, how do you want to feel? And he looked kind of puzzled, because it's almost like no one had ever asked him this question. How do you want to feel?
Right.
So he ran off, and then a couple minutes later, he runs back. And this time he runs back with this picture of this sun, this beaming sun with how kids draw a sun with the sunglasses and everything. And he's smiling. He's saying, oh, this is how I want to feel. This is how I want to feel. And I asked him, I said, okay, well, do you feel that way now? And he kind of laughed, and he was like, yeah, I do. So that small exercise showed me that you could use creativity to actually transform the way that you feel.
Right.
Now, as I've been using that method, I use something simple like that with kids, but I've also led and ran workshops with adults where I use those same principles, but just transform them into a way that's more palatable for perhaps a corporate environment, for example.
Right.
And in all of those different ways, whether it's the small workshops or the larger ones, I was able to see that across age ranges, creativity was really this tool that you could use to transform how you felt. And in doing so, that let your mind be clearer about what you even wanted and how to get there. And so all learning those things over the course of several years really helped me to begin to write this book.
This is great. You sound like, listening to you, I would think I'm listening to someone on the stage doing a TED Talk. That would make a great TED Talk.
One day.
Yeah. Well, listening to him, I'm listening to what I would consider a psychiatrist or psychology.
Yes.
What are you going into that area? Is that your dream, or is this just something that you decided to do just on the take?
It's not necessarily a particular interest of mine to go into that kind of field. I kind of grew up as a therapist to all my friends, though, because when I was young in elementary school, everybody would always come to me with their problems. People would come to me with their secrets, with their dramas and different things. Right. And I was there to listen to everybody's, life stories and the things that they had going on. And a lot of people really trusted me with not only the ideas, but with advice. And people would ask me, like, well, what should I do? What should I do? Wow. And it took me a long time to realize that as much as people were asking me things and coming to me with stuff, I needed other people as well. I needed someone to talk with and work with, right? And so there's been several things in my life that maybe have informed the perspective that I have now. I mean, some of them is therapy. I've done therapy on my own to better understand myself, to better get a grasp on connections and relationships with others and be able to have better relationships with people. Right. So there's several things that have happened. And outside of that, just my own learnings, like studying fields of psychology, studying fields of emotional regulation, so that I can have a better knowing both for my own purposes, but also in terms of teaching, right? So I'm a teacher. I teach at a high school. I've taught all grade levels.
God
really.
Bless you.
Yeah. It's a fun field. But yeah.
Well, then you're teaching, and that excites me all the time. The question is, what do you find your observation of young people, and you're a young person, But given your observation of them, what do you think they're one of their biggest biggest concern these days?
Wow. Today, I would say one of the biggest concerns is a lack of understanding about how social structures actually work. Because, I mean, and there's several factors that contribute to that, right? I would say the two biggest that come to mind are the intensive use of social media and post-COVID social norms. So a lot of the students who I teach currently at the high school, during COVID, were some of those were some of their like formative childhood years where they really should have been in more social settings with other people. But oftentimes for many of these kids, for 2, 3, maybe even more years, they were home, and they were home individually with parents or with guardians, and they didn't get that chance to really develop. Yeah, they didn't have that chance for social development in the same way. And then I think those issues have been exacerbated by social media today, and not just in the sense that, oh, social media is evil, but I think many people perceive social media to be reality.
Right.
And so they look at someone on social media and they aspire to be like that person, not knowing that what they see on that social media is purely whatever that person wants you to see. It is not a true representation of that person's life. And so I think people get very caught up in not just, competing and staying up to date and looking a certain type of way, but just overly informing their perceptions about what life is and what it should be based off seeing someone else's curated feed.
Yeah, that's right. That is so true, especially today with AI.
Oh my gosh.
You don't even know if it's
real.
coming from an authentic place.
Yeah.
It could be a agenda or somebody with nothing else to do or somebody that just wants to put out their bad information, but that's true. You're a man after my own heart because I'm emotional intelligence.
Okay.
So it's right there. And the thing is, what you were saying was so important because that's what catapults me forward. The fact that what you said there was a time where we were informed by the social sciences, which informed our social institutions. Today, no, they're looking to be informed by social media.
And the thing that I would even push further on that is that many people are not necessarily even looking to be informed, but just allow themselves to be informed, right? Because if you are actively looking for information, that's one thing, but we're in this oversaturated information space where every day you can scroll down this never-ending feed and there's just an absolutely overwhelming amount of information on many topics that, one, you'll never have the ability to fully impact because you're spread so thin looking at, oh, this is happening in this part of the world. This is happening over here. This is what this person's opinion is. And it's so chaotic and so scattering that it gives you information to base your life off of, but it's not exactly even the information that you would want. It's not the information that you would seek out, but it's just what you've allowed to become your source of information.
Right. So prevalent. So do you think maybe schools do enough to counter that, or they're just kind of left behind themselves in terms of how to best address these serious issues, because they are serious.
They are serious.
The
impact of them is far-reaching.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't think schools are doing enough, but I also don't think that it is schools' responsibility in a certain sense.
Right.
I mean, is my perception that it is on a school to curate the best learning environment for students while they're there in the school. Now, if you choose to say, for some examples, for some schools, for example, they say no cell phones in classrooms or during school, right? That's one step that a school can take.
Right.
I think that's fine if that's how they want to run their school. But outside of school, a student is going to spend, whether it's summers, weekends, after school, before school, lunch,
Yes.
anytime, there is still a giant amount of time
Yes.
in which a student can and will be involved on, and it's not just social media, but I think it's too big of a burden to put all the onus of it on the school and to say
Right.
this school isn't doing enough.
Right, yeah.
And that's sad.
It
because
takes a
that's where it
village
goes.
in any reason.
Exactly.
takes
It does take a village. And a school is one part of that village,
Yeah.
but they're not the entirety
They're
of
not
it.
the
They can't
entire-
be.
Then it's hard to even know what your children are doing because most parents are working.
Yes,
And
yes.
they have too much free time, you know.
Yeah.
I remember they had the latchkey kids.
Latchkey kids.
You know, and they had all that time, and rather, you know, most parents were happy with them
Yeah.
not being out there getting in trouble.
In trouble, right.
Yeah.
So they'll give them the video games,
Right.
and then they got the gaming on the phone and all of that.
Yeah.
But one of the things we have to always understand too is parents are just unprepared as children sometimes in
Yes.
terms of
True.
In
the
fairness,
perfect
be
thing
fair,
to do.
right.
There's no perfect thing to do, and there's so
Right.
much chaos, as you said, going on around the world, in the world, through the
Right.
world, and much of, particular, I always speak in terms of us African American people or Africans in the diaspora all over, but particularly the ones here in America. There's so many negative things have been put into our pathway that we can't really. One of the things I'm writing about now is how we can't blame each other for something that has been, you know, put in our pathway from quote chattel slavery on. You know, we got to address that first. I'm doing a documentary as I speak on how we as African people, we know that slavery was a crime, but I don't know if we have really understood the injury that came with it. So in addition to being a crime, it's an injury. So until we attended to from that perspective, there are a lot of things in our community. That's why we can't compare. We can't compare whatever we're doing with anyone else because we have lived experiences that just don't fit the norm.
Yeah.
And we are looking at ourselves, and as I said in my intro, that I'm a curious person, always curious, not so highly knowledgeable about everything. I've just been so insanely curious about what's happening around me. So when I think about the 400 years that we've been here, being snatched from our village, brought over here, and if you know the history of just a little bit prior to that, see, I'm curious. I'm like, what happened? Why, if we built the pyramids, and we did this, and we invented this, and we created this, and we are the first of everything, then what happened within those 400-year period? So that's why in even comparing ourselves with other people in light of what's going on in our communities, we have to take it from a different perspective anyway to say, well, what happening to us got to go beyond what's happening to the average person, because we've never been tended to. We've never been treated in any fashion. What you think about that particular idea?
I agree. And certainly, I would say there is, like you mentioned, the idea of it being not just this something that happened, but this injury that it has come as a result of it happening.
Right.
And so there's a multitude of things that have to happen then in order to treat that injury. For example, one, we have to reevaluate what we're doing in the present moment. So oftentimes you'll see people raising their children the exact same way they were raised, right? And naturally,
Yeah.
right? Because that's what you learned, right?
Right, exactly.
But then some of the things that we've learned were what? They were ways to raise in order to keep people safe during
Yeah,
that time,
exactly.
right? And so
Survival, right.
that intensity with which sometimes we find in the Black community the discipline,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Where, oh, you've done this and you're going to face something really strict
Right.
because the threat at the moment then had been, okay, if you step out of line,
Right.
I risk losing you.
Exactly.
So I have to keep you so in check that
Right.
you don't jeopardize this as a family unit.
Right.
But now that being passed down generationally, what has that resulted in now? Now we live in a space and time where there isn't such a risk, right?
Or it shouldn't be.
There shouldn't be, right,
Let's see,
right, or
like
shouldn't
Trump
be,
is
right?
bringing it back.
But those same traditions of parenting being passed down
Yeah.
are now resulting in current generations being estranged
Yes.
from the parents because they're like, well, we don't appreciate the way because they don't because for them they don't understand why that
Exactly.
happened.
Don't understand
Exactly.
But at the same time, it's not just to put it on the younger generation and say, oh, well, you just don't understand. But no, it's also, okay, but now we're in a different space, so a change needs to happen.
Right.
So it's a collective shift that we all need to go through.
Right.
And we are getting there. It's just,
Slow.
yeah,
And
it's
the dialogue, there needs to be, I believe, the shift that you were talking about from then until and present.
Yep.
There's a dialogue that, I'm not going to say a disconnect, but a dialogue that didn't happen. And if it did happen, it happened for, like you were saying, precautionary reasons rather than just bridging that gap.
yeah, yes,
know,
100%.
so
And I would go even further in suggesting that we need to maybe re-see, for lack of a better term right now, ourselves from a totally different perspective.
Oh, 100%.
If we had not been treated for an injury, just like any other injury, it maintains and mutates and go on and on and on. So if we understand it from that perspective, I forgot to declare my podcast here. The name is Unapologetic Amateur, looking for experts in Africanism, and it says it all. I'll change the word now from Africanism to Africanology. So to meet
I
with
like that.
Okay.
I
So to
like
say
that.
that we need to see ourselves as serious as cancer. We need to see ourselves as serious injury as, and that's not to suggest, I want to make that clear. In spite of, we have risen above whatever
Yeah.
was done to
Yeah.
us. So it's
Yes,
not us,
yes.
and it's that any injury leaves an effect.
Yes.
And until we understand that it's going to take experts,
Yeah.
specialists. I call myself an amateur in that. I'm an expert in living black because I live black every day. I know the racism, I know the this, I know that, but I'm not an expert in black living. Black living entails you got to know the whys, the when, the where, the what happened to us in order to suggest. We have great people now. We have great experts and scientists and specialists who have done the work of diagnosing what's happening to us. They researched, they diagnosed it. Dr. Joy DeGraw always referenced her, post-traumatic slave syndrome.
Yep.
So it's already there. But what I'm looking for now is the restoration. I'm looking
cure.
for the cure. I'm
Absolutely.
looking for, until we understand it from that perspective, we're going to have to accept the fact that we've been allowing those folks to speak for us who shouldn't have, and it's no fault of theirs. They don't understand it. We know we got Clarence Thomas. He's the biggest justice in the world, right? That don't mean he knows Africanism.
Right.
You know, we have a good buddy, former President Obama. I love him. But a lot of young men were just a little bit offended when they thought he was inferring that they weren't taking their load. He wouldn't know. He's a PhD. He was a president. He Harvard, but he doesn't know the Africanism of our situation.
And to that point, I would say that to the point of the cure, I would say that one of my greatest understandings has been that there is no silver bullet.
Yes.
There is no one shot
Right,
that
exactly.
is going to provide that cure, right? I mean, now, if let's say you sprained your hamstring or something like that, there's not just one thing. You may have to do rest, you may have to ice, you may have to heat, you may have to get a splint, you may have to take some medication. There's going to be a multitude of things that you need to do in order to restore that to 100% and better.
Right.
And the same thing is true here. Now, for some of us, that looks like going to therapy and understanding ourselves better so that we can have better family dynamics so that these families aren't splitting apart.
Right.
For some of us, that means furthering our education and getting, not just saying, okay, I'm going to get a college degree, but no, you got YouTube, you got AI, whatever you want to call it, right? You have many platforms by which to educate yourself so that you can further give back to your community and family and be a bonus, not a burden onto others, right?
Right.
So there's a multitude of different things that we as a community need to do in order to elevate ourselves. And I think it starts both at a family and community level. Strong families make up the community, but a strong community supports the family. So
that is excellent. And the metaphor I use often is that the virus that came in on us in 2020, that pandemic, when it came, it was something so uniquely different than anything that any of us had ever witnessed. I understand that it's never been throughout the history of the country as serious and devastating that we knew right away it took someone who has studied that to at least come in and advise. We knew to wear masks and whatever. Well, many of us didn't even know that initially. But to the extent we kind of understood certain things. But to get to the bottom of it, we needed an expert. You know, one of the ways we learned early on, the most powerful man in the world at the time, because if you're the president of the United States, you're supposed to be the most powerful man in the world.
Right.
He said inject bleach. We knew right away, oh no, we can't even go to the president of the United States. That means that we needed to someone specific for that virus to run us through how to do what to do. So what I'm saying is we can't even expect us, as smart as some of us are. That's what kind of I'm in a quandary at this point to figure out why many of us, and maybe there are, so I'm not suggesting they're not, but I'm saying, and I know I'm a curious person, but why some of our people, what I call expert specialists, have not thought of this, what we're going through should be more institutionalized in terms of a study from the top, of us. And if we understand that, then we will stop accusing each other. I wrote a book back, my first book, Verbal Healing. We must reject tired, trite, tasteless, and other nonsensical expressions that keep us damaged. The book really is about how we talk about ourselves, how we degrade ourselves, how we think we are the worst of the worst amongst us, some of us. Well, that didn't just come out from thin air. No. Right. That comes from the institutionalized indoctrination and all that other good stuff. Conditioning.
Absolutely.
So I'm saying, but then when we get in trouble, we think of people like, say, for instance, our president. Good people, means well, or me. Hear me speaking, this is like glass ruby. No, I don't. I know how to defend, but I don't know how to define. We need people who have studied that specific stuff that will do us as seriously as an oncologist would go into cancer, or a cardiologist would go into heart. You wouldn't get the cardiologist as smart as the oncologist, but you wouldn't get the cardiologist for the oncology. So we need to understand our situation is very unique. As a matter of fact, the United Nations just recently declared that what we went through was the worst atrocity, not one of the worst, but the worst atrocities. That should tell us something, and we should treat it as such. And once we begin to understand it from that perspective, I want my expert, my specialist, because we do have them.
Yeah.
Don't depend on me. Come together and create institutions to study.
And I would say that as much as we should and do value those experts, let us not let the need for those experts halt us from progressing in the present.
Oh, no, definitely. Right. We as African people, right, we as African people, that's what I want to stress. In spite of, shows you how special we are. Because in spite of all that I'll outline, we're still at the top of the heap on everything. People follow us for our arts, our craft, our inventions, whatever. So it's not to deny that we're still not producing. It's just that if we got the treatment I'm suggesting, where do you think we'll be building more pyramids? You know what I'm saying? You look around and say, oh, there's a pyramid there.
We are building. The thing
No,
is,
I'm
like,
saying actually we will be doing the great things, and we are. You're
we
right.
are.
I'm saying
It's just that
in spite
they're
of.
not shining a light on it. The
Well,
powers that be.
Well,
true.
we
They're
don't
not
expect them
shining
to
a
do
light.
anything. And when I'm suggesting this, I'm not talking about them creating institutions for us. It's not for them
No.
to do because they're not going to do. They wouldn't have
Right.
fought so hard to keep us down if they were going to put us up.
But they suppress
They suppress.
those that are doing something and doing something positive.
and so then in the same sense, that's when things like this podcast are valuable, right?
That's what I was gonna say.
Where we
The
have
work
where's
is
our
incredible.
channels, right? So
Right.
where are we getting our information from?
Right.
Where are we even sending our own students to school? And
Right.
you know, these things where yes, there are going to be people who don't want to let our greatness be seen.
Right.
Yes,
Right.
there are going to be other situations that we have to combat against, but
Right.
some of the ways that we can combat against those is not being so not only reliant but also even caring about
Right.
what we see from someone who's not where we want to be. Right?
Exactly.
Right. And helping them and coming together. It's going to take a collectivism and a continualism. You know, whatever we do, like what she's doing here, it's going to take more of that. That station she finally got me to start listening to, 126.
126.
Is it the People's Voice? Or
Yes.
something like that. I've learned
Series
so much.
126. That's
Series
a
126. I've learned so much of what's going on that I was cut off from being informed of. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
now I find myself I'll spend an hour at night, and Ruby will tell you, sending clips that make a difference and that
Yeah.
educate.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and I always get a small percentage of people saying, "Oh, Rose, why you say?" Because we need to be informed. You could delete it or whatever, but at least you are informed.
Now you know.
And to be forewarned is to be forearmed. But I just wanted to ask you a question. What I think is really good when I went back to college, one of the things that I wanted to do is I wanted to understand why do we think that way. And that's what I'm going to ask you as an educator. I'm not an expert, you know, in understanding the brain, but I understand the spiritual man. That I understand very well, the spiritual man. And the higher faculties. We got the
Right.
senses, hearing, touching, smelling, and then we have the higher faculties of ourself,
Right.
the community itself. There was a beautiful African brother, I forget his name. He wrote the book, The Community of Self, and I was just a teenager. Agba, I forget his name, but very, very knowledgeable brother. I was a teenager when I understood that there was a community of self. And I wanted to ask you, do you see witness of that? Because when I went back to college 2 years ago, one of the courses that I took was cognitive understanding. And the reason I did that is because I wanted to understand how the brain worked. And I wanted to understand that for a lot of the damage that was being done to our kids with gaming, staying on video games half the night, and have to go to school, you know, and it was affecting them cognitively. They weren't able to exercise those faculties of critical thinking. Do you find that? Do you have any observation of that?
A lot.
I'm sure he does.
I
The
mean,
teacher.
yeah. So there, I mean, several parts to that question, but I'll work it backwards. Starting with the lack of critical thinking and the result of that. Yes, and I would say that right now, far surpassing gaming is AI. I mean, that is one of the
Yes.
biggest challenges I see
forgot
right
that.
now
Yes.
in terms of critical thinking. Am I against AI? No. I don't think it's something that it should just be fully demonized and we'll say, no, you just shouldn't use this. Don't ever look at it. You know, I don't think that's the right way to approach the situation. And at the same time, it is a tool. You don't use a hammer to install a light bulb, right? And so, but we have people who are using this one tool for everything.
Right.
And especially for our young people who haven't even been taught some of the other tools. First of all,
Right.
AI is a tool, but it's a powerful tool, right? It's
Very
like a table
powerful.
saw.
Right.
And if you, or like a reciprocating saw, and if you don't know how to use some of the other tools first, if you don't know how to use a screwdriver and a hammer
Right.
and some of the more basic to a wrench, if you don't have some of these basic tools in your toolbox, and then you start trying to use this big power tool
Right.
for everything, it creates a lot of problems.
Exactly.
And one of the biggest problems that I see it creating is that lack of critical thinking, where
Right.
people will start asking it questions that they
Right.
shouldn't even need to ask it.
Right.
What shoes should I wear today?
Right, right. It gets really ridiculous.
Or you know, or for example, on a exam or on a homework assignment, there have been times where I see students not even beyond using it to. It's one thing to use it to get the answer for something.
Right.
It's another to use it to completely pass the assignment.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
I've seen students take a picture of a question, upload the picture, and then
Absolutely.
just paste that answer in. I mean, they didn't even read the question.
Right.
I mean,
No editing,
no,
no
did
understanding, nothing.
not even read the question.
Right.
But just took the image, pasted whatever the question was, pasted that response back onto the thing, and just submit that, right?
Right.
Right. Do
And
their
I mean,
parents know?
We don't know
I mean,
if the parents know. I'm just looking at your book
some
here.
do, some don't.
Okay, I love this cover here. I understand that you created it yourself.
Yeah.
I
yes.
want to hear about a 20-something take on creating the life you want. Since we're talking about the kids and everything.
Sure, yeah. I mean, so on the cover of it, it looks kind of like this newspaper kind of cover.
Yeah.
And on the front of it, that's me on there painting this mural. So I was painting this Pan-African mural
Yeah,
when I was in
yeah.
Bahia. And creating the life you want, to me, is so important because people sometimes relegate themselves to the life that they've been given.
Yeah.
Right.
Right? Like
This is true.
you think, oh, I was born in this generation. I was
True.
born in this place and time.
True.
I was born into this social status, this financial status. This is what I got.
Right.
These are the cards I've been dealt.
Right.
And
Right.
they don't have either sometimes the courage, the know-how,
Right.
or the community to come around them, support system,
yeah.
exactly, to say, no, this, what I've been given is not all that I can have.
Absolutely.
And so creating the life you want, I don't propose that everyone is just going to say, okay, if you want to be a millionaire,
You're right.
snap your fingers and
Right.
overnight you're going to have this. No,
Right,
that's
right,
that's
right.
a falsehood.
Right.
But what I do think is, or rather what I do know is possible, is that each person can begin to transform their life to reflect one that they actually enjoy, to
Right.
be one that they actually look forward to living, to be one that they really actually care about and is more aligned with what they want for themselves, what
Right.
they want for their future. Now, is that change going to happen overnight? No.
Right.
But it's going to happen, surely. It will surely happen in
Right.
the measure of input that you put in. Whatever you put in is what you're going to get out in a
Right.
certain sense,
Right.
right? If you devote your time, energy, effort, finances, and everything towards one goal, you're sure to reach it.
Right.
You
Right.
are sure to reach that goal.
Right.
It's just a matter of how much can you align to that goal.
Exactly.
Because for many of us, people choose not to align to a goal
Right.
that they really want. So
Right.
which you have to think about, right? Because people choose to not align with the goal they really want. So if you say in your mind, man, like, I really want to run the New York Marathon. Like, let's say for whatever reason, that's this person's goal, right? And they say, man, I really want to run the New York Marathon. If I could do that, I would be happy. I'd be content.
Right.
That's really what I want in
Right.
life.
Right.
If that's what you want, but you don't run,
Right.
you don't go to the gym, you
Right.
don't buy the new training shoes. Instead, you buy
Right.
the new device.
Right.
If you are not consciously making efforts to
Right.
line up with that life
That's
that you
the
say that you
issue.
want,
Right.
then all you're doing is further diluting yourself and putting yourself down.
Wow.
If all you're saying is, oh, okay, I really want to, I really want to make six figures,
Right.
right?
Right.
And then let's say you work a 9 to 5, you get home from work and oh man, I just need to decompress. So I'm gonna chill. I'm gonna throw
Right.
something on TV a little bit. Like, man, I worked hard today. We get it. You worked hard, But at the same time, what do you want? And if you
Right.
know that your current job is paying $40,000, and you
Right.
know you want to make six figures,
Right.
is coming home and decompressing every day, is that going to get you to that point?
Right.
No, it's not.
Right.
And so you have to say, well, what do I want out of life? And
Right.
what is it going to take for me to get there? And if you know, okay, this is my goal, then you have to start doing things that align with putting
Right.
yourself on that path.
Right.
Now, they might not be fun.
Right.
You might say, oh, well, so what? I'm going to come home, do a 9 to 5, and then I'm going to come home and study for 2 hours each day
Right.
for exams, or I'm going to come home and start working on a side business. Now, where's my free time?
Yeah.
Right.
You don't have it.
Right.
You don't
Well,
get
I tell
it.
you, brother, you sound so much like a
I'm
great
telling you.
motivational speaker now. I'm going to ask you
Yeah.
the question when I get back, but I want Norm to show me my villagers and just to see who's on board with us. Okay, it's a Robert Cabbage stock. We are on deck. Great. Wakia, look on deck from Ruby. Okay, George Jackson, all the way out of California. Okay, that I heard about an earthquake. I hope that didn't affect you, babe. Lloyd Cyrus, hi family. Lloyd Cyrus, Lloyd and Shamir are watching. Okay, well, y'all just keep watching because that's what we bring our guests and information on,
The best of the best.
Yeah, and we are going to try to determine that we won't perish for lack of knowledge, is one of the scriptures that I always quote. So we try to bring the knowledge here, and so glad that you all are watching, and just keep watching. Getting back to the brother, you sound so like you may become a motivational speaker one of these days.
Who knows? I mean, I truly get passionate about these things because, at the end of the day, I really love my life. I really do, and it's a blessing
It's
to be able to say that.
rewarding.
It is,
And you're doing something purposeful.
and I'm doing something purposeful, and I'm also doing what I want to be doing.
Right.
And
That's a big
I grew up always knowing I was going to do art. I mean, I've been doing art since I was 5-6 years old.
Okay.
Always. I knew I was going to be doing art. Now I run my own studio practice where I create art and work. I got into doing stained glass, which is a new fun,
Wow.
new fun
Okay.
Oh, I like that.
media I've been in. I teach art, so I teach art to high schoolers, and I get to do some travel here. I really do love my life, right?
Oh, great.
And as
That
much
is
as I do
excellent.
love my life, life is still life, right? Like,
Right,
there's
life
still
is still life.
challenges, right?
Right, absolutely.
Not every day is just sunshines and rainbows,
But that's
right?
how you grow.
That's how we
you
grow.
stretch.
But
Yeah.
it makes me not sad, but it pushes me when I see other people who don't necessarily enjoy the life that they have and aren't doing anything about that.
Right.
Well, just listening to you, that's part of the village concept. We got to be motivated by each other. And as I said before, once we understand our situation, understanding your situation puts you in a position to not accept it, but know that you're going to work through it. And when you hear a person like yourself, but we think that this is who we are. This is
Right.
not who we are.
No.
Right.
And we have to understand that clearly.
Yeah.
And as I
Right.
said before, I can get on a soapbox and start talking about that because I can certainly defend. I defend my people to high heaven. But defining us, talking about what it is that we went through and how we went through it, unlike any other catastrophe in the whole world. When you think about the 200 years prior to the last 200 and the things that happened to us. It's still happening to us.
yeah.
Is
still happening.
It's
But it's
just a
just
miracle.
in another way. It's just it's subtle. It's not overt.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask him a question. Something you said that hit the nail on the head of any of us striving or beginning to move forward. Alignment. We were never taught how to align with a desire or with an endeavor
Right.
or with an initiative. That's one thing. So just doing that is everything, because I had to align before I decided that what I was going to do, I was going to persevere. And she'll tell you all the health issues that I went through, and it never stopped me. I found a way because I'm aligned inwardly. But the other thing I wanted to say is, what initiative could the school take to do the next steps, which is have a plan?
Yeah, I
'Cause
love
you
that.
need a plan,
Right.
and then you need not only a plan, but you need SMART goals.
Absolutely. Yeah. All
Take
great.
it away.
All great points. I mean, starting with both the alignment and the plan, right? Two quotes. One that I say sometimes is with the plan. I say the plan can go in the trash on day one, but you have to have a plan, which means that you don't know what you're gonna face on every day. Something new. You could say, okay, for example, when I was in college, my sophomore year, I had a plan to study abroad. Through my school, I had gotten a scholarship. I applied, and I was going to study abroad in Italy for a full year. So it was going to be a full year. I was going to spend my entire junior year in Italy studying abroad. I got accepted scholarship, wonderful, everything. 2 weeks after I get that acceptance, we get the notice. Well, it turns to spring break. When it turned into spring break, we then get an email from our school that says, hey, we're going to extend spring break by a week. And we're all like, huh, what's this? So it was the beginning of COVID. So that whole year got canceled, right? But so then I had to pivot.
Right.
And so, but you need to
make
have that plan.
adjustments.
But
Yeah.
you need to have that plan. And having that plan is your alignment, right? Because when you don't have a plan, I'm forgetting who this quote is by, but there's a really great analogy. And the analogy, he basically gives this example of two boats. And he says, if you set a boat out into the harbor, right? And you want this boat, let's say you want it to get from here to Jamaica.
Okay.
If you take a boat on the harbor and you just push it out, you don't give it any crew, no captain, no GPS, no nothing, and you just start up the engines and push it off into the coast, off the coast. 99.99% chance of time, it'll never get anywhere, and it will probably sink as soon as it gets off. Now, if you take that same exact boat and you put the crew on there, put the captain on there, and you give it that GPS, that map, right? 99% of the time, even if it may take some turns to get around a storm or whatever else,
Right.
it'll eventually get there.
Right, the course
Because
is
it has,
charted.
exactly, it has that charted course. It has that
Yes.
plan. But without that plan,
Right.
you're
Excellent.
not going to wind up anywhere.
Right.
And that's what I love for people to understand is that so many times you mentioned SMART goals, right? So many times, even if it's not a quote-unquote SMART goal, right? I mean, the acronym that we use, right?
Right.
Even if it doesn't have every bit of that,
Right.
at least having a goal
Right.
is so much better. And I mean, I'm not just saying a goal of, oh, I want to be a millionaire. That doesn't
Right. That's not a goal.
that's not a goal, right?
It's a design.
But it's how do we, and that's why those SMART goals are useful, right? So how do we though begin to, as you said, align, right? And we align by starting to taking an account of our lives.
Right.
First, that's why in my book, right, it says feel no vision. So before you can get to the vision, I say first you have to go through the feelings part. Feelings is the initial reactions that you're
Right.
going to have to anything.
Right.
Before, if someone texts you or calls you out of the blue, let's say someone you haven't talked to in maybe years,
Right.
you might get a gut feeling or something in you
Yes.
before you can even have a rational response to it. So we have to deal with those feelings first. And they're not bad. We just can't let those feelings steer all our decisions.
Right.
So we
Yeah.
deal with the feelings first. Then I say no. Now, no, this is the part where, like I was just saying, you have to get a firm account of yourself, where you're at right now. Who are you right now? So many of us don't even know ourselves. We're kind of, drifting through life, and we say, oh, well, I would do this. I work at this job, and I got, 2 kids, and I do this, and I do that. Yeah, you have these attributes about you, but you don't have a firm understanding of who you are.
Right.
What are the qualities that make you up?
Right.
What are the intrinsic things about your personality that define you for who you are? Who are you when no one else is looking? What are your moral compass and values that define you as a person? And so when we have all those things set, right, we now really know ourself. And then we also know the practical reality of ourself. What's currently in my bank account? What's my ins and outs? What's my monthly expenses versus income? What is my this, that, and the third, right? All these different things that we have to know about ourselves. Get a really clear picture to really know all these things. Not just guess and assume, but to really know. And then once we know all this stuff about ourselves, we can say, okay, I know where I'm at. Now I know how to get to where I want to go. Because the vision is that last piece, right? Now, if you take on a GPS right now on any phone if you say, okay, I want to get to, say, Philly. I want to get to Philly, right? You could put Philly in there. If you don't put a starting address in there, the GPS is going to say, no, what do you want me to do with this?
Right.
Get to Philly from where?
Right.
That's why it's important to know where you're at right now,
Right.
who you are. Because if you don't know who you are and what your current situation is, the GPS, no matter how good your plan is,
Right.
you can know, okay, I want to get to this point of being a millionaire. I want to get to this point of, having a home and 2 kids. You can know whatever your end goal is, but if you don't know the current starting point, there's nothing to base it off of. There's no route for you to follow.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, you just wrote my interest now. So who are you? Not your bank account. You don't have to tell me your bank account. But just give us some information as a young man.
Your next book.
Oh,
Who are you? Not your bank account.
Or more to the point, knowing who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. And so
give us some info about you. And you're such a young man. So
Yes,
Absolutely.
so knowledgeable.
Ah,
I'm
my
so
word.
impressed.
oh my gosh, thank you. Who am I? That is a phenomenal question. It really is.
We'll start with your home life. You have siblings?
Many,
Okay.
yes. I have.
And I'm sure that they had a lot of influence.
Yeah,
in your life.
of course. I mean, I have 4 parents and 4 siblings. So I mean, I've
Okay.
got a lot of siblings,
Okay.
and I would say I am. There's many things that make me. I would say there's more things that make me similar to other people's than there are things that make me unique.
Okay.
In the sense that everybody is unique, right? Everyone has different things about them that have contributed to their success or contributed to their being someone different from someone else.
Right.
Yet many of us are very similar, right? I mean, even beyond the surface level, many of us are, we're very much more related than we are different.
Yeah.
And so when you ask me who I am, I mean, I am a young African American male. Yes,
The youngest or the oldest of the siblings?
Yeah,
or
I
in
am the
between?
second oldest.
Okay.
Second
Wow.
oldest. Yeah. So most of my siblings are younger.
Okay.
I'm someone who really enjoys studying and travel, and so I mean, I've after I graduated college, I spent a really good amount of time trying to learn both about art and spirituality. So I
Okay.
studied different forms of traditional African spirituality in Angola, Nigeria, and then how that translated in different areas down into Brazil and Bahia. So I spent time studying different things like that just interested me. But I mean, at my core, I would say I'm a creator. That's who I am.
Well, we got to hear more about you, so we're going to have you back because
Yes,
my time
I
is just running out.
we
Definitely.
gotta have
Okay.
you.
I'm
Yeah,
interested in what we
I'd love to
have
be back.
here, and she is the what you call you of the children.
I'm the second oldest.
Second one.
No, not your children. I say the children you have here.
My children.
We have a group
Yes,
here.
we
We
have a
created group of
Yes,
children here because we think it
yes,
is so necessary for them to
yes,
get the education
yes.
Beautiful.
before they leave home.
Beautiful.
So we have a group.
They're Nana's kids or Nana's kids.
Nana, Maymay's.
Maymay's kids.
Maymay's kids.
But what we do is we try to make sure and we try to express to our people who are listening, our villagers, that the most important thing is for our children. I can see you probably had a lot of in-home learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we need to teach our children before they leave us
Absolutely.
to know who they are, whose they are, and in that way they won't be confused by
Yes.
folks who try to declare them something
Absolutely.
different.
Absolutely.
So she's my maitre d' of the children. She teaches them, and we're going to have them back on at the end of every Monday, but they've been going through school and other things. They are involved in so
I
many
got a
thing.
plan already to have him there
Yeah,
with
and
the
the children, right? Exactly.
Perfect. I love it.
Get into
Excellent.
their headspace.
That's what we need. Okay, so it looks like we just run out of time. You have any last words you want to say before we close here? But we certainly want to have you back at your convenience.
Well, absolutely.
Because it's been so interesting, so educational, so informative. You are.
Yes.
Thank you.
And we
Thank you.
appreciate you so much. So
Thank
we're
you.
going to say to our villagers, I'm Ruby Williams Shivers, your unapologetic amateur looking for experts in Africanology.
Yes.
There we go.
I love that.
Okay, so we're going to see you all next week. Take care and goodbye.
Yes.
We
See
love you all.
later.